Jerk vendor gets pissed for being paid a day late, takes us to court, wins, and gets ordered to pay us $200. This happened at work some time ago. Vendor is legal services company we are required to use with one or two of our clients. We'd prefer anybody else as they are pretty slow, expensive, and have been jerks to us for years, apparently because we have the audacity to not use them exclusively. We missed paying one bill for this vendor on a case, likely got misplaced into the wrong stack. As soon as we noticed this the next day, we paid it. Even hand-delivered the check to their office. It was a few days later they call us, demanding that we need to also pay the court-mandated late payment fine. These vendors are to be paid for their service within X days of date it was rendered, or there is a fixed small fine paid to the vendor. By this point we figured out that in our rush to pay them that other morning, we accidentally also mailed them a second check, paying them twice. We tell them this and to just consider that the fine payment. They did not care for this and that they were going to take this to court to have a judge make us also pay them the late fee. We agree, because this is going to be funny, and get a hearing date calendared. It ended up being a 5-minute hearing. The judge agrees that we need to pay the fine since it was indeed paid late, but because we had accidentally paid them twice already, he orders them to pay us back the difference of $200 and some change. Judge then spent the next 4 minutes berated them for being petty. So instead of getting paid double, they needed to be jerks and spend time and money for their lawyer to go to court for 5 minutes to then be ordered to pay us back most of an overpayment. Edit for clarity, since there were a lot of similar comments, legal bills are separated by case, client, copy job, etc., and not one single bill for everything at the end of the month. This is because everything gets expended up the chain and the money will come from various accounts, because insurance. So for this vendor, we had paid X minus one of X bills, where X could be anywhere from a few to several hundred. The actual amounts of money here are trivial compared to our billable hourly rates. This is what made the whole thing even more silly. The check that got mailed was likely automatically generated from our billing system, which probably means that that specific bill came in late to us. We manually made the check that was hand-delivered. This entire thing really didn't matter and wasn't worth any effort to figure out what exactly caused it happened, as something like this happens maybe once every few years. As I understand it, this particular fine here was a recent regularly change because some of them were not getting paid for years and the entire process of them trying to get paid was one many leaking holes in the system. One of the lawyers explained it to me in excessive detail, but I have mostly forgotten all of it. That was months ago and not something that even involves me. LOL, they did not sue us over this, it was something like a procedural hearing. I'm not a lawyer, I don't know the correct terminology here. It was still a laughable overstep by them, as what they did is the sort of thing for when you haven't been paid for months/years, not 12 hours. Would be nice if there were similar regulations on our bills to clients. It's pretty much our industry's standard for the last several years, where every bill is automatically cut 15 to 20% by third parties handling bill review. Often takes 2 to 6 months to get mostly fully paid. If you'd worked in medical billing before, you likely know this sort of thing well. Now to the comments. Have been jerks to us for years, apparently because we have the audacity to not use them exclusively. How to ensure that you become an exclusive vendor. Take the client to court over a petty issue. Yeah, that should do it. We won a contract with a government shipbuilder once and our competitor sued us and dragged the shipbuilder into it, costing them tens of thousands of dollars in legal fees. The lawsuit was just absurd, but the competitor had a lot more money than we did and knew that the legal fees would kill our cash flow. It pissed the builder off so badly we were made a sole source vendor, which meant the equipment didn't even go out for bid when it came time to renew the contract. The order went straight to us. We spent about $70,000 in legal fees defending ourselves, but they ended up building more than double the number of boats that were on the original contract, and we were selling about $120,000 worth of equipment for each one. It ended up being very lucrative for us, and carried us through the recession without having to lay off any of our staff. That, my man, deserves a post on itself, maybe not in this sub, but I would gladly read the whole story. This is going to be funny. The best reason to go to court. OP replied. That was a requirement with my old personal lawyer, that in case of some libation. Litigations and libations. Coming soon to AE. What if someone working at that vendor hates their job and was doing their own malicious compliance, like boss says we gotta get our court-ordered fine, we're up $200 on this, but if he says we gotta go to court over it, I'm gonna take it to court, have fun paying a lawyer and $200. This is too many layers deep in malicious compliance. This is too many layers deep in malicious compliance. Drop the clients that require that vendor. God, yes. Or try to talk to the clients and see if they can agree to change vendor. I can't imagine the client would be too inclined to continue using the vendor if they knew this was how they behaved. Thanks for taking us to court. Feel free to do it again anytime. 10/10ths, would get sued again. How not to piss off a judge, don't waste his time. Now every time that company goes in front of that judge, he's probably going to be thinking, those are the clowns I yelled at for being stupid arseholes, are they being arseholes again? Instant source of unconscious bias right there. As if it's unconscious, he probably enjoys when he can shit on their day if he actually spent 4 whole minutes berating them the first time. True, but someone with a business relationship with your client just sued your company. I'd raise the issue with my client at the very least. OP doesn't tell us what jurisdiction this is under or what happened about costs, but if payment has been demanded and paid, as in this case, even if it was initially by accident, I would expect the judge to rule that both sides' costs be paid by the plaintiff and quite possibly fine them for wasting the court's time. Also, as this clearly took some time and they had not refunded the overpayment, I would expect interest to be awarded. That's what I was expecting, and what would have happened. This story reeks of pointy-horned bovine excrement. Missed payment and then paid them twice? Your company needs to get their shit together. Must not have that many clients if they have the time for this nonsense. I'm hungry and had food on my mind, so when I first read this title, I was wondering why a jerk chicken street food vendor would be taking someone to court. I am also somewhat high. Review the contract that your business has with the vendor, and anytime they breach the contract, call them out on it. If they want to be petty about being late by a day, then be petty with their slow, expensive, and jerkish way of doing things. Once a fire is lit under their butt and they start to complain, point out that you have been very tolerant in the past, but then the one time they could have shown tolerance, they didn't, so now they are getting a taste of their own medicine. I'm sure they'll agree to be a bit more lenient in the future of mistakes made on your end. Seems like their legal counsel is running the show. Likely their legal counsel is on staff. They make him file all sorts of trivial shit and he hates it. He always thought he was gonna be Jack McCoy but ended up having kids in law school and had to give up his dream. I've seen that show. I would bring up this petty nonsense with the client as well. When I saw jerk vendor, I immoderately thought of the jerk store. When I read the tagline, I thought it was a vendor that was providing Jamaican jerk. I think maybe it's sort of like barbecue, but I have no clue, lol. I see the Jamaican jerk seasoning so. But anyone that comes out on top on a dispute with lawyers is getting my respect. Perhaps today is a good thing regardless. Wouldn't it have messed up their books to cash a check for more than they were owed? As in, be something close to fraud. If I had a business, I wouldn't feel comfortable taking over double what was owed. Going to court over it is silly, but I'm gonna bet you were a jerk and refused to pay the small fine separately.